Hi guys, welcome to our channel. I'm Remy.
And I'm Brandon.
And you're tuned into
A Life Worth Loving.
So, last week we did our How We Met story, and a lot of you guys have been requesting that, so I hope you enjoyed it. Today we're picking up on where we left off last time and walking you through the period of getting to know each other to where we decided that we wanted to date each other. So this is going to be juicy. We have a whole lot to explore and a whole lot to share. So yeah, let's get going.
Let's do it.
So I guess we can start off with where we were mentally in that space where we met each other. So as we disclosed in our last video, I was in Philadelphia for my grandfather's funeral. That was February 2020, and I was in my season of singleness. And what that looked like for me was I was not dating anyone, not interested in dating anyone. I was only focused on who I am outside of a relationship and who God called me to be, just like as Remy Logan, because I wasn't married yet. I just wanted to spend an intentional season in a space that was truly dedicated to the Lord. And all of my adult life, I've either been in a relationship, have been involved with a guy, or have been entertaining a guy in some sort. I have never actually truly been intentionally single without even male friends. So this was something very new for me to, just have every single possibility closed off for inviting companionship or even courtship during that season. And that was a very special time. I was dating Jesus, and it was just very sweet because I learned so much about my true identity as his daughter. And I don't think I would have been able to really focus on myself and learn who I am with the distraction of men in my life. So by learning who I was and who I was called to be, I also learned what I deserved. And God revealed to me that I've been selling myself short, which I already knew. Some things are common sense. I was selling myself short in previous relationships, and I was settling. I was ignoring red flags. I prioritized the wrong things. And I was just down this dark road of destruction when it came to relationships. I couldn't trust myself. So during my time with God, when he revealed to me who I'm called to be, that absolutely changed what I wanted to pursue in a man. So I say all that to say that that's where I was when I met Brandon. I was disinterested in any men. And I was also celibate. This was, shamash. He's sleepy. He's so cute when he's trying to sleep. So yeah, I was celibate, and I just needed to cut off every single distraction in order to maintain that celibacy and not compromise my purity that I was seeking for with the Lord. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was complete opposite. While Remy was in her season of singleness, which I never heard of, I didn't know what it was. I was really curious to hear what it was all about. But prior to meeting Remy, and when in the season of meeting Remy, I was living what I thought was my best life. Single, man, good job, good career. I had my own place, my own property, investment property. I really just thought, I had it going on. I was living my life freely. I didn't have to answer to anyone. I had multiple female friends, and I just came and went. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. But I met Remy, and the story how we met, but we really got to know one another. She really exposed me to what her season of singleness did for her, and it really just opened up a whole new thought process for me. I was very interested, and it sucked because I knew I loved her already, and I'm like, dang, I want my season of singleness. Like,
you knew you loved me already?
Cut that out. Yeah, I knew. But I'm like, dang, how do I get this season of singleness? But
I like the fruit of the season.
The fruit. Like, I'm like, I can't do this season of singleness because I really want to be with her. Honestly, what it really took was just me being intentional with developing that relationship with God. And I thought I did have a relationship with God. I really did. And I prayed when it was convenient. I believed in God. I was raised in church. My mom brought me to church, all my life. Family that goes to church. And I didn't really take that with me in my adult life. When I went away to college, it was just like I kind of just went with the wind and did whatever was convenient for me and whatever my friends were doing, and church wasn't a part of it. And then that took me into my adult life, where I didn't go to church at all. And then I kind of went to church one time, and I rededicated my life. That one time I walked into church, and it honestly was amazing. I love my church in Philadelphia, the church that I joined. But we were outside of the pandemic, and outside was still open, and outside won for me. Like, I just didn't really, I was fully subscribed to being outside and doing whatever Brandon wanted to do. So, as you know, Remy and I met right before lockdown. Lockdown happened, and...
Wait, before you get to that,
okay.
I just wanted to just add in something to what you said about growing up knowing Jesus. And that's the same for me. Like, we both grew up knowing Jesus, but one thing that was a disconnect was knowing Jesus and loving Jesus, which we did, and then what we didn't do was living a life that served Jesus. So we knew him throughout all the raggedy stages of our lives. Like, we never once was like, Jesus ain't real. Like, we love the Lord, but we did what we wanted to do. And essentially, like, we were convicted in that, but at different times. And when I rededicated my life to the Lord, it was basically to say, now I'm going to live a life that serves you and not a life that serves myself. And I had to just like continuously die to my own flesh, because we want to do what culture promotes, and we want to do what's popular within our friendship groups and our friendship circles. And I think, like, that's what happened with both of us, is we just became of the world, and there was no distinction between us and non-believers. And that was one thing that like really convicted our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. So once lockdown hit, my brother and I, we went back home to my mom's house, and we spent the pandemic there. And you okay?
Yeah, he gets a little excited.
While we were spending time there, I'm working from home, and it became lonely. Of course, I'm with my mom, my brother, my grandmother, but still, I had this void within that I didn't really know about. I'm just searching for things, and at that time I was, I'm on dating apps. Like, before then, I'm on dating apps, just meeting people. And I'm just not really nurturing those conversations, but talking about them. And there was nothing that I could really do about it because we're home. So then it just became like, it became like really boring to me, because I didn't really have a goal for any of those relationships besides hanging out with them. And that really gets you nowhere. But through those conversations that I had with Remy, they were just so fruitful. And she helped me peel back layers of myself that I really hadn't seen in a long time, and some things that I didn't even know about myself, and they were all good things. And I really began to like fall in love with myself and see myself in a different light, because I just felt like there was a lot of darkness around me, and not necessarily because of the people around me, just because I wasn't living the life that I know that I should be living. And Remy was like the first person, I want to say in a long time, but I want to say almost ever, to really come into my life, to show me how to live a life, a righteous life, and still, I guess, be you, just, I guess not be you, but she showed me that I can live a righteous life, and I didn't have to subscribe to whatever else the world was providing or exposing me to. How to pray. She would show me that the devotionals that she's doing, we would speak on those things, and I really fell in love with everything that she was doing in her life. And of course, she was in California, so what time is it? It's like 4:30 here, and it's bright. Back home, it's dark. It's so dark, and it wasn't a lot of light in my house. So we would FaceTime often, and she would call me, and it would be like this, and it's dark where I am. So she just, with her energy, with her smile, and then this whole natural light, she just literally just lit up my day every single day.
Oh, Bobo.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Thanks, babe. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just something that she was doing to me. She was feeding me mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Well,
not physically.
Not
Not
physically,
physically,
but,
physically. We was long distance, but
we also weren't dating.
yeah, we weren't dating. We were literally friends. We were friends, and of course, I was attracted to Remy, and I think she was attracted to me. But we were building a friendship that honestly I didn't know what was gonna come from. I was hoping that I was gonna be able to date Remy, but still not through the lens of the path that we took. I love God, but I didn't have that relationship with God. I wasn't celibate, so I was attracted to Remy in different ways, and I wanted her in different ways, and that's just not that's not the life that Remy was living, and she was trying to show me that there's more to this. And of course, there's a lot to unpack, but yeah, I would just say that Remy helped me get to know God in a different light. She let me know that he's not a God that's mad at me. He's a God that I can talk to whenever I want. I can talk to him just like he's my friend, just like he's my homie, and just really put it out there, because I struggled with praying because I didn't know what to say. So she let me know that I can just be myself, talk to God like he is my best friend, and say the things that I'm scared of, say the things that I want, say the things that I'm disappointed in with myself and with God, because when I speak to God and I reveal things, he revealed back to me what was actually happening. So that's how I got to learn who I was, by developing a relationship with God and developing a relationship with Remy. So it was this bond that we built, that I had no idea that couldn't, like, I don't see it. It can't be broken. This thing is like so intertwined with the Lord that we're just filled with him, and it's just nothing but love, and we're doing the best that we can day by day, and we work at this. We work at this this marriage, and now we have a baby, so we're working through it. So I don't want to speed up and go too far, but that's basically a summary of where I was, and what made me decide that Remy was the one for me.
That's so sweet. It's so amazing going back and talking about these things, because it seems like so long ago, but that season was the most vital season in our lives, in our collective lives together, because it laid the foundation for the home that we were going to build. And not like a physical home, but the spiritual home that we were going to build. And during that time, it kind of felt like ministry to me, because I wasn't with you. I wasn't conversing with you to like have a new friend, or conversing with you to see if I liked you enough to date.
Yeah.
It was just very fun sharing what God did for me in my life, and then seeing your excitement about that. Seeing your hold on, I'm trying to make your eyes smush. Can you hold that for me? All done? Can Daddy burpee? Mama's hot.
It's hot over there.
Can I turn the air on?
No, because it's gonna make a lot of noise. It's correct.
Okay, it's alright. I'll get through it. I think he was making me hot.
Yeah, I know.
So it was very cool to see how excited he was with what the Lord has done in my life, that he wanted to apply those same things. So that made me happy, and I didn't feel like I was breaking my season of singleness, because it's like I thought I was doing God's work. And throughout all of that, we were very transparent with each other, very vulnerable with what we've gone through in the past, with what we're going through at the time, combating lies that we allowed to become our identity. So we had a very interesting start to our relationship. It wasn't like, oh my God, like, no, we weren't going out because we were in a pandemic. We didn't have the escape of, oh, come over, let's just watch a movie. Like, there was none of that.
3,000 miles apart.
We were 3,000 miles apart. It was so intentional. And as intentional as it was, I feel like we accidentally fell in love, because I was not trying to like Brandon, but I kept feeling myself go there. And I would have heart checks often with God. And I'm like, I made a promise to you that the next person that I date will have the potential to be my husband. And I'm starting to fall for this man. Like, I'm really starting to like him. I'm starting to fall for him. And I just need to understand, like, what that looks like for you, Jesus. Like, is this someone who you want me to allow to court me? And of course, this is after like multiple conversations, and on Sundays we would watch church together. As he said, we do devotionals. And once I realized that I was starting to like him a little bit, I let him know that I was not interested in having a sexual relationship, and that I wanted to remain celibate until marriage. Not until dating, not until engagement, until marriage. And that was a promise that I made to God, and I was not going to break that, regardless of where we ended up going in life. Like, engagement wasn't enough to break that. So after I told you that I was celibate, do you remember your first thought process?
Yeah, I was like, that's what's up. Like, that's cool. That's real cool.
You're like, good for you.
Yeah,
Let me call my shorty.
Yeah, I was far from that. And yeah, you're the first person I actually really knew that was celibate, and I didn't really know what that was about. I don't want to shout him out, but not shout him out, but I don't want to blow his spot up. But it's one of my old coworkers. He was celibate, and he spoke on it like all the time. And this is like, you know, not like that when in the office. And I'm like, man, you crazy. You better go ahead somewhere with that, because I'm not trying to hear all of that. I'm going out tonight, bro. It's slow for that, right?
Yeah.
And but really understanding why, and not saying like, hey, you should do this.
Yeah.
Like, you really showed me the glory of it, and like the truth that you were able to see.
Yeah.
In that season, I'm like, okay, wow. And I'm so interested in you too. So I'm like, you know what, maybe I can give this a try.
Yeah.
And honestly, just being candid, or transparent, I should say, it was easier because we were in lockdown to be celibate. You know, like, first of all, I'm not trying to get COVID. Where's the reason calling it the coronavirus? I'm not trying to get the coronavirus.
Not trying to get the Rona.
Not the Rona. So I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna be celibate. It's crazy outside. But it's crazy how God works in mysterious ways, you know? And I just feel that talking to you while in lockdown, I was in community, which helped me. I was in the right community. I wasn't subscribing to like everything that was happening on Instagram Live and all the other stuff. Of course, there was a lot of unfortunate things in the news around that time. But besides that, I was I was vested in what we were building. I was vested in getting to know God. I didn't think celibacy would be as difficult because we were in lockdown. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to give it a try.
Mm-hmm. You're like, this is easy.
Yeah,
I ain't seeing nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You know, but I would say that it wasn't. I think I did say it wasn't difficult, but it was only. I say that because how the relationship that we were building, mm-hmm. like the other people that I was talking to, mm-hmm. I really just cut them off. Because I started to realize, you know, even when I did have conversations with them and we were talking, I wasn't getting filled. It was just like, it wasn't something fruitful.
There was no substance.
There was no substance, and it wasn't fruitful to my spirit. It just took me back to where, to places where I would usually end up. So I'm like, you know what? I need to stop this and I need to make a decision. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I made the decision to stop talking to everyone else and really just focus on getting to know you, mm-hmm. And like I said, getting to know myself. When we went deeper and talking about celibacy and doing our devotionals, I really thought it was going to be a piece of cake, mm-hmm. you know, until I think we decided to see one another, mm-hmm. and yeah, when we got to see one another, we made a decision to see one another and spend some time with each other. So I flew to LA to see Remy.
Oh wait, before we get to that, we didn't get to how we actually started dating.
You didn't.
So we'll get right back to that story. But first we're gonna rewind a little bit. That was all so you can see Brandon's thought process for celibacy. It was his first time dating someone who was on the journey of celibacy and the journey of singleness. Mm-hmm. So we were at very different places. But Brandon was willing to try it out. Like he said, how hard could it actually be? You'll find out soon. But one question that our number one supporter, aka T, who asked all these questions that we're answering, wants to know is why Brandon? Like, of all the guys who tried to talk to me during this season, and I was just disinterested, why did I end up saying yes to Brandon? And during my time with God, I made a list that he placed on my heart, because the list that I made on my own was real raggedy, y'all. I am not even gonna tell y'all what that list was about, but I had to rip that list up, and the Lord gave me qualities and characteristics of my husband. And I knew that I wasn't interested in dating anyone who didn't already look like the man God showed me, because like, what's the point in that? So when I met Brandon, he was kind, he seemed very nice. Like, it was like surface things that I could figure out about him that I was like, okay, cool, but that's still not enough. Like, I'm just not ready to break my season of singleness. But then as we started to converse more and get to know each other on a deeper level, I really fell in love with his heart and his humility. Like, he was very willing to accept where he needed to grow more. And one thing that I was very skeptical about was his spiritual maturity, because I felt like I was, and this is something that the Lord did convict me on, but just being transparent, I felt like I was further, this is like so stupid to say, but I felt like I was closer to God, and that I led us spiritually.
You were, and you did.
Hi, honey.
Like,
I felt like I was leading us spiritually, and I didn't want to do that in a relationship. I was fine doing that to, like, you know, a stranger who needed to know the Lord, which is what I thought was happening. But for my husband, I wanted him to guide us spiritually. So this was rough for me. And hi, honey. He said, "Thank you, Mama, for loving my daddy." That was rough for me, if I'm being honest, to be the leader spiritually. I wanted my husband to be the leader spiritually. I was just starting to understand. I was also on a journey of like reading the Bible from front to back. So I was like, I want my husband to have already done that, so I can come to him with questions. And I want him to be the leader spiritually, and to be the more mature one, and to be closer to the Lord, and for me to trust that whatever he's decided upon, whatever decisions he's making in our relationship, it's because he's already gone into private with God and then came back to me. So in my mind, that's how the man that God prepared for me looked spiritually. But what I didn't prepare for was that it was going to take me to develop that in him spiritually. And Brandon, current day, has exceeded in that expectation, but at the time it lay dormant in him. And it was just something that needed to be activated. And I didn't go into it with the intention of like, oh, let me get this out of you, because I was just like, this is too much for me. Once I realized that he didn't have it, like we ended up breaking up, which we'll get into, for that being one of the reasons. I just felt like he wasn't in the position to lead me spiritually. But it was revealed to me that the person who God was creating for me was still being built. And Brandon didn't come to me as like the entire full package that was revealed to me and my husband, but along the way, God let me know that this is who he called and who he is preparing for me. So just because it lay dormant in him at that time, I wasn't meant to count that out as like, oh, he doesn't have what's on my list. So I hope that made sense. It seems like I was like rambling, trying to get it out.
I think it makes sense.
Okay, so
Thank you.
there's that. So the list that I rewrote once I was able to spend that time with God was characteristics. And I don't know if you guys want me to read you my list, but okay, I'll find the list. So I pulled out all my journals from earlier today, and I was just like really going through the motions of when we first met in that journey. This was my journal for 1 year, this whole thing. So I'm gonna read this to you guys really fast. It's 18 things, but let's just go. So this is the list I made with God. And it says, 1, a man who knows and loves God, a man who honors God through the tithe, through serving, through his lifestyle, his honesty, his temper, his use of words and time. That's 1. 2 is, that was 2. 3 is a man who has ambition and willpower to work towards that ambition. We don't want a lazy man. 4, a supportive man who will encourage and stand by me during my steps towards success. 5, a man who will die to self over and over again to serve our relationship. 6, a man who will put his relationship with God first and then honor the relationship of his family. That's me, him, and now Malachi. A man who will go to God with uncertainties and come back and act with God's leadership. 8, a man who absolutely adores me. 9, a man who is forgiven. He's human and understands that people fall short. 10, a man who loves and protects me in every way he knows how to. 11, as for him and his house, we will serve the Lord, and I will pick up the slack when he falls short. 12, he is the leader and the head, but will be honest when it becomes too much. 13, did I say 10? 13? 12, 13, his heart radiates love for everyone he encounters. 14, he trusts as if he's never been hurt. 15, he accepts my flaws and loves me without fault, without wavering, and without reward, although I will reward him by loving him the same way. 16, he encourages people and sows into the lives of others. 17, he does business honestly and with merit. Yes, you want an honest daddy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the last one is he learned from the Lord how to love me and our kids. Yeah, Bubba.
So good, mommy.
Yeah.
I love that list.
So the reason why it was important for my husband to have spiritual stability was because the majority of the list involved God. And if I want a man who has honesty and who has integrity and who pays his tithe and who learns how to love through him, like, the relationship with God has to be there, or else there'll be cognitive dissonance. And as I looked back on that list, throughout time, Brandon ended up checking off like every single one of those boxes. So,
but it was so hard, honestly. Like, I didn't know you. Like, honestly, today is when I found out that half this book or more were prayers
for him,
for me.
Yeah.
And we were sitting in this room with tears.
Yeah.
But it's just the power of prayer. Just that, because Remy was in her space praying, I was in my space praying. Not for a woman. I'm praying for the Lord to show me the kind of man that He wants me to be. Show me how I can be closer with Him. Show me how I can be the man I need to be for Remy if she is for me. But I wasn't as I was intentional, but I wasn't as descriptive. And the Lord was working through the both of us. He put us together, but allowed us to be in like this spiritual playground to figure things out. It was like a safe space where He knew that we couldn't mess this thing up because we're so far away. Because we're both not too far removed. Even though Remy is, was on her journey longer than me, we're both
in the streets.
we were in the streets, and we were not too far removed. So He nurtured us in a way to do this thing. It was kind of like a practice, like a long scrimmage of love, a long scrimmage of relationship without fully being committed to one another. And actually, it wasn't that long because we made it official
in April.
A
month later. All this happened over the span of a month, probably just like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we fell in love with each other, but how dare we ever say that? Because I don't think he wanted to intrude on my season of singleness, and I definitely didn't want to move into anything too fast. But our conversations evolved into what we were calling date nights. And we would have wine virtually, of course, and we would ask each other very deep questions, and we just laugh and get to know each other and cry. And it was the most intentional relationship I've ever had.
We dreamed together.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the, we dreamed. We told our plans, like, hey, listen, I haven't even spoke to anybody about this, but hey, this is what I want to do, and Remy did the same, and we believed in one another. We said, yeah, how can I help you get this done?
So we spent a lot of time sewing into each other's visions, and it was a very unique relationship that ended up happening before we gave it permission to.
Yeah.
So, let me just refer to all of T's questions. Make sure we got everything out the way. Devotionals. Oh yeah, we talked about how I was doing devotionals and Brandon felt interest in that, and then he started doing them. We didn't actually do couples devotionals until maybe right before we started dating.
And it's not couples relationship, but
sorry, you're right. Not couples devotionals, but one we did was the Sacred Search, where it highlighted what to look for in a partner and some other things I don't remember.
But besides that, it was hey, I think this devotional was great, whether it was something over covering anxiety, fear, or just praying. Is something that we were able to do together on a daily basis.
Right.
And honestly, that was funny because I look forward to these devotionals, but it was one of the worst things for me because it helped me grow, and that's why it wasn't the worst thing, but I was really scared and intimidated because
we would discuss it afterwards.
Yeah, we would discuss it after, and there's these questions, and Remy had very precise answers, and it was very God-led. And me, I was oh yeah, God is great, God is good. It was very basic. And when it came to time to praying, I was just so basic with praying.
But
and
that's what praying is. You were so insecure about that.
I was so scared because Remy was good. It was she was Sarah Jakes Roberts Jr. praying on the phone. Yeah, she was. She was
Sarah is. She's she be killing it. I was just
that's
Lord,
big sis. That's a big sis. But she go off and she covers so much, and I'm oh man, she's so good. Like just praying, and then when it be my turn, I'm just basic. You know what I'm saying? And
at that time, I don't think you comprehended the fact that prayer is just you talking to God in your authentic voice. Sure. And I think that's one thing that I don't want to say that the church got wrong, but that's a part of my story too. Is I went to a Kojic church and I never felt like I could get on a mic and pray because I didn't have the diction, like the shata la boca, and like I don't know. I know that sounds crazy, but I just didn't feel qualified to pray because my prayer didn't sound like the old saints. And once I realized that me coming to Jesus and just showing my heart was prayer. He knows what we have to say without us opening our mouths. So we're doing ourselves a disservice by thinking we have to say something eloquent. And I'm so glad that we were able to break that off of you so that you wouldn't feel like you had to have the right things to say and the right way to say it and like quote scriptures and do all those things. Like, it's just a conversation with Jesus. Yeah, and I got so much to say about that, but I don't want to go too deep dive. But it's just amazing what you can do when you just step out on faith and trust and do it in fear. Do it in fear. It's amazing what God can do through you. And I don't want to fast forward, but like now, of course, we're married and I'm leading us in prayer. Of course, Remy, leads us in prayer, but never did I see that I can lead this woman in prayer. Never did. I didn't think I was qualified to lead her in her spiritual life. As you know, she was way more advanced than I was. So, just through this bond that we went through, that book y'all saw was prayers for me, prayers for what you see today, and what you're gonna see in the future. This woman's been praying for me, and I say if the book is halfway about me, half of those prayers have come to fruition already. Remy was anointed to come into my life and just turn everything upside down, to stop me from having sex, which I never thought would happen. Like wasn't trying to hear it, and unfortunately, I did try to knock Remy off her track. When I came to visit her, we broke up because I offered Remy a massage, and that serpent tried to persuade her to do more things in the massage. And, so we broke up.
So we broke up. Remy said, no boy. She said, pack your bags
and go back to Philly.
Go back to Philly. She, she kicked me out. So before
we finish that story again, let's get to April.
I'm sorry.
We started, we actually decided to date at this point. I'll just make that really fast. You alright, Smush?
You okay?
You alright, Bobo?
He was excited for you broke up with Daddy.
Just tell me more. One night in April, I think it was the 24th.
Oh, this is your favorite story.
My roommate and my other girlfriend, Bianca, we were just getting back from a pool night. And I got home, called Brandon to see if he was still awake because I just missed talking to him because I didn't really talk to him much that day. And he's like, I have something to tell you. He's whispering. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Is he going to tell me that he has a child? It's going to tell me that he fell in love with someone else. Because remind you, we weren't dating yet, but we loved each other and just refused to admit it. And I'm just like, what is it? I know it was too good to be true. Like, what could it be? So he's like taking his time to get it out. And I'm like, baby. Oh, I didn't say baby. No, we weren't babying yet.
That's what you wanted to say.
I was like, Brandon, what is it? Like, what's going on? And he's like, I love you. Yes, he whispered. He will tell you that he didn't, but he absolutely whispered. And
I couldn't
was
talk
like,
loud. I didn't want to wake everybody up.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. He didn't want to wake everyone up. But every other time we talk, he has a totally normal voice. But this time he's whispering. And I was like, you what? And he was like,
what?
I love you. Yes, his
all
voice.
All this Bridgerton, like, I burn for you. Come on. Like, you.
That's what happens.
Okay. I mean, if that's.
So, I was like, what? And I took pause for a second to just like take in the moment.
Oh, you did all of that. Okay.
And I was like, I love you too. And it was as if like, I don't know, it was just so sweet of a moment. And I just felt very giddy. And I felt like a young girl who fell in love for the first time. Yeah, I did. I felt like a young girl who fell in love for the first time, but I knew that it wasn't just the feelings of love, but that it had the anointing to go along with it. So yeah, at that point we just decided to
date. I asked you to be my girlfriend. And
then I said I have to pray about it. I'll let you know in the morning. And that next morning I woke up and I felt God's peace. Like, I think I explained it to you as I woke up and I felt like someone was holding me. Like, I felt so much peace because I prayed all night about it because I didn't want to exit my season of singleness before the Lord told me to. So I prayed all night like, Jesus, if this man is not for me, then I accept it because I don't want to be in a relationship that you don't particularly deliver to me and one that is not completely ordained and covered by you. So to go to Jesus in prayer and then come out that next morning feeling like I didn't hear yes or no. I just had the feeling of peace. And with that feeling of peace, I took as a yes. And I took it to Brandon. I was like, I think I get to break up with God and date you. No, I didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
But yeah, I got permission to be with Brandon. And from that point on, we thought it was going to be sweet and easy until he decides to come visit me in May, which was a big deal because it was the pandemic.
Yep.
And
flights was cheap.
Yeah, that's when he came to visit me in May. I picked him up and made a sign and everything. And that's the story that he was telling, where he did actually try to get a little bit touchy-feely. And once again, this is something that was new for both of us. You know, we became very close very fast. So in your defense, I can understand why you felt like maybe, you know, but I am really glad that I honored my promise to God through that, because I think if like, I would not have been able to trust myself in any other decision if I ended up having sex with you, because it would just make me feel like I do what needs to be done until I get the blessing, and then as soon as the blessing comes, I abandon what got me there in the first place. And that has been the story of my life. It's just like just enough praying until God delivers, and then he gives it to you, and then it's like, oh Lord, don't need you, I got this. And I didn't want to take that gamble. I didn't want to do it on my own. I've done it on my own for all of my adult life. For all of my adult life, and it didn't work. So I was not willing to gamble again. I wanted to be all in, and I wanted my partner to be all in, and I was willing to take all of the love that I had for Brandon and call it quits because I wasn't willing to compromise.
And honestly, that level of integrity I hadn't seen in a long time. You know, it's so easy to cut corners, and justify, tell little white lies. It's so easy to do that. And Remy was the first person to challenge me to not do that, to not cut corners, just by standing her ground there, kicking me out. And also just saying like, hey, like, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I want to be better with. I don't want to tell these little white lies anymore. While Remy's struggling to not tell little white lies, I'm telling big lies. And I'm everything that Remy's exposing me to, I want to chase after, but I'm so far behind. I'm lying, I'm stealing, I'm doing all of these things just because they're convenient. And I think that, and I don't have any faith behind me. So with Remy exposing me to this, like, just not folding, like that's huge. Like, to send somebody back home, you know, that you feel deeply for, it just hit on another level. And it sent me back home, not bitter, not broken, but wanting to be better. Even if that meant that even if Remy didn't take me back, that was a lesson for me to say, hey, there are changes that needs to be made in my life, because Remy is a righteous woman and she did not fold. She knows what's right. So her posture has got us where we are today, because I had no posture. I was willy, I was flimsy. If she said we was gonna do it, we was gonna do it, you know. So that really challenged me to be better. And when I got back home, I dove into the Bible. I did devotionals on my own. I even asked Remy, because we weren't together, but I asked, I said, we were still friends though, because we really built something special. She didn't just cut me off. I asked her if she would continue to do devotionals with me, and she did. She didn't speak to me during the day. She was, you know, booked and busy. But she made time for the devotionals with me, and she still prayed with me, and she still did her questions, and then you know, she did what she had to do. And it really just allowed that time. That was actually, you know what? That was my season of singleness.
I was just thinking that, what in the alignment?
Wow, that was my.
You did have it.
Yeah, and it was very short.
Yeah.
But not short, but I had it. I had that time to. I didn't go back to talk to any girls. I didn't open up the app. I was looking myself in the mirror. I was praying. I was talking to God, listening to sermons, and really just taking notes on what I wanted to do better in my life, and the life that the man that I wanted to be. So that was seriously, it was like a accelerated program that I was in, but I took what Remy fed to me, and I just went out there and did research. I listened to sermons every single day, and just looked for encouragement. I read. I just took time for myself. I wasn't searching for things of the world, which had tainted my life for so long. And I hate to say shortly. It's not shortly. It was maybe a month or so.
It was 6 weeks.
Yeah, a week and a half. Who's counting, right?
And what's really good about that season of singleness that you had was that you got to figure out if celibacy was something that you wanted to do on your own, and not just to satisfy me. Because when you say yes to something like that for someone else, then if you don't cave with me, you're going to cave with someone else. And that was an insecurity that I had, knowing that he couldn't avoid trying to have sex with me. Imagine what happens when he gets home. And I didn't want to be in a relationship where I couldn't trust someone. So that was one of the few reasons as to why I had to just say, this can't work for me right now. And it was very hard to do that, but it was also very easy. It was very difficult because I did love Brandon, and I really did see him as my husband in so many different ways. But at the same time, I just wasn't willing to compromise, set myself up to be hurt by him going back home and living a double life. So breaking up was the best thing for us in that moment.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't then, but I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. And I encourage anyone to try it and believe in yourself. And maybe you're going to be tempted, but it's okay. It's the human. It's the human.
It's
nature.
our flesh.
Yeah, it's our flesh.
One great thing about celibacy, I mean, there's so many great things. First, it's the way God designed marriage. Like, we're not supposed to be with a person that intimately. So we're not meant to be with someone that intimately unless it's our forever spouse. There's so much damage that occurs when you when you allow people access to you on that level. And when you pull back the sex and you pull back the sexual connection and you focus on the heart and you focus on the character, you see so much more clearly. There's been past relationships where I was sexually involved where I looked past every red flag that existed because my flesh spoke so much louder than my spirit. And when you cut out that element of flesh, can you really see someone for who they truly are? And you have to talk through things. You have to actually get through conflict. You can't use the body to distract the person or convince yourself to stay with someone because of how you relate on that level. And to just remove all of that really just set the stage to see each other's souls and to see each other naked but with your clothes on. Yeah. If that makes any sense. To see your spirit, to see your heart, to see your trauma, to see how you handle conflict, just like literally to see layers peeled, and to have like that kind of view of someone without any fleshly distractions is so important.
Yeah, I mean, it takes me to like the thing that everyone's saying now. I feel seen. Mm-hmm. You know, but you can be seen and still be judged. You can still be seen and still be heartbroken. You can still. I was seen through Remy's eyes with no judgment. She came as a friend, and just that she wanted the best from me from the day that I met her. From the time that we spoke on the phone, she wanted the very best from me. I didn't. It's really strange how you know everything transpired, but she was just in this purest form, and I always admired that about her, and I'm like, dang, I want to be like that. And you know, through prayer, I think I do feel that I'm a little bit like that now.
A lot like that.
Yeah. But it's just amazing what you can do when you subscribe to the things that that are good for you. When you subscribe to God, when you subscribe to just the goodness of God. He has so much in store for all of us. And if I did not agree, I would not be here today. I would not be talking to you right now because it's a matter of a decision. I do believe that we all have the opportunity to turn to the Lord and get to know Him, and so that we can see ourselves how He sees us. And if we don't do that, then we'll either continue living the life that we live, or we'll be where we once were. So it's just so beautiful to see how two broken people can be together, because Remy had her own doubts and fears and insecurities that she brought to the Lord in her season of singleness, and God began to repair her. And then
I was broken. I was broke down. It was like pieces everywhere that God had to just pick up one by one and put me back together.
And I was broken and didn't know. Like, I thought everything was fine with me. I thought I had it going on. I was good money, like nothing to worry about. I got everything that I want. I could do whatever I want to do. But I was convicted when I got to know God. The things that He wanted for me, I began to realize that I wanted, but all the things that I subscribed to were stopping me from getting there. And what I had to do was break those ties, those soul ties, what we spoke about. And this is not a segue, but we are a relationship goals couple. Like, we follow Pastor Todd. So
he doesn't mean like we should be your relationship goal. He's saying like there was a sermon called Relationship Goals and we followed that.
A series called Relationship Goals. Yeah, we're not relationship goals.
We're a product.
We're a product of the series Relationship Goals. from Pastor Mike Todd. So sorry if I, confused anyone. But yeah, I just want to elaborate on the importance of when you want to be better, go for it. Don't be discouraged, because it's hard, but the glory on the other side of it is so much better.
And it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. Yeah. I never saw this for my life. The day I met Remy, I spoke of my little intro conversation was talking about real estate. I was kind of in real estate, but I wasn't like fully committed, licensed or anything. Talking about LA, open houses. Just so interesting how God allows you to bring up. And now 3 years later, we're living it. Bless you, baby. We're living it. We're in LA living together. I show open houses. I am a licensed realtor now. So just the things that God allows you to speak of, He will water it. He will nourish it, as long as we agree, as long as we want what He wants.
Yeah.
And we came together to want what He wants, and that's what our marriage is. We consider our marriage a ministry.
Whoa, smush.
Whoa, buddy.
Wow, look at you working.
Whoa, buddy. But yeah, we are living. We believe that we're living a life that pleases the Lord.
Yeah.
And
we asked Him to place His desires into our hearts, because oftentimes we could focus more on the desires that we place in our hearts. And that's how we were both living before we fully dedicated our lives to the Lord. Is like, we loved Him, but we also loved doing everything that served our flesh. And it's not until you say, God, reveal to me the things that are just serving me and that are desires fueled by my flesh, and then help me remove those things from my heart so that I'm emptied, so that you can place in me the desires that you have. And it took that emptying. It took to empty the desires of certain things, and even to empty the distorted images that we saw of each other, or not of each other, but that we saw of ourselves. I was living a life where I saw myself through shame, and I didn't even realize it. And I didn't see myself as good enough. Like, the visual that I had for myself was very just distorted and pixelated, until I got to say, but Lord, how do you see me? And once He revealed to me how He saw me, was I able to say, shame, that can't live here. Like, that is an oxymoron to what you call me to be. And if you call me to be set apart, and you call me to be chosen, and you call me to be fearfully and wonderfully made, and you told me that I was intricately woven, and that you have a plan and a purpose for me, and that I will live and I will not die, and that I'm supposed to operate in fullness, and I have access to joy. And I'm like, how am I supposed to step into all of that when I'm so weighed down by who I thought I was? And I started to allow what I've been through to label me. And I had to just completely peel all of that back. And that's why that season was so important for me. And I would be lying if I said that some of those things don't come up sometimes. But it was so important to peel back those layers before I met Brandon, because if I did meet Brandon, I wouldn't have been able to, this relationship wouldn't have worked, because I wouldn't have known the love that God put into my heart, and I wouldn't have been able to give that to Him. I wouldn't have been able to love myself enough to not need so much from Him. And when we don't love ourselves enough, we desire other people's attention and other people's approval, and there's a void that needs to be filled through others' words, through others' time, through how they feel about us. I operated in the space of people pleasing because I needed to feel like a part of something and feel like people accepted me. And not until the Lord convicted me in those areas was I able to fully step into what it was that I was meant to be. I say all that to say, that once Brandon also went through that process and he was able to empty himself of the lies that he was told and allow God to fuel him with love, and he was able to receive that he was loved, not until that happened was he able to properly love me. Yeah. So he needed to realize how loved he was by the Lord, to love me right.
1,000%.
And that's like the biggest testimony of our relationship, is allowing God to love us and accepting that love so that we can give it to each other every single day.
That was really good.
We've been chatting, huh?
We've been chatting.
We're gonna have to break this up into 2 parts, maybe.
Maybe. I really like where we are.
Yeah.
What's next? What are we gonna share next? Like, what's next in our journey?
So we might end up breaking this into 2 parts, and the reason for that is we don't want to overwhelm you guys and take up all your time. Smush a mush, honey. Oh, babe, oh, just smush. Oh,
he's sleepy. It's okay.
I know, Bubba. I'm sleepy too. We understand that you have things to do, and we want to be very respectful of your time. I'll close out. We want to be respectful of your time. We understand you have things to do. So thank you so much for joining us today and sticking with us through our story, through our journey, through our ratchetness. And we will be back next week to talk to you about how we ended up getting back together, because obviously, spoiler alert, we got back together. How we ended up getting back together, and then what was that journey from dating to engagement? Because then we get to the fun part. This was like really heavy and important, but there's some fun, trust me. And we're going to touch base on that, our 9-month journey from dating to engaged. And we can't wait to talk to you about that. Once again, thank you for joining, and we can't wait to see you again next week.
Love y'all. Peace.